From now on, this place is mine. Mason's voice boomed across the dining room, his polished dress shoes clicking against the hardwood floor I'd mopped myself 1,000 times. We need real leadership here, not someone content to coast on nostalgia. His eyes locked onto mine as he said it. A challenge. A dismissal. I, Sabrina McKay, had spent 12 years turning McKay's Southern Kitchen from a fading family diner into Charleston's most beloved comfort food institution. I'd memorized every grain in these wooden tables. Knew the exact temperature our ovens needed to bake cornbread so light, food critics called it a bite of Carolina heaven. And now? My brother, who couldn't tell collard greens from kale if his life depended on it, was lecturing me about leadership. Around the table, our staff held their breath. Jennifer's knuckles whitened around her order pad. Carlos, usually all smiles, stared at his scarred hands like they'd betrayed him. Little Bethany from pastry, barely taller than the mixer she'd named Bertha, looked like she might cry. They all knew the truth. Mason hadn't earned this. While he'd been off networking, aka schmoozing investors at golf courses, I was the one who negotiated with farmers at 4 a.m. to get the first pick of peaches. Developed 3 of our 5 most ordered dishes. Calmed the health inspector who found one mouse, in 2019. Yet when Dad retired last month. Mason's the face of this family, he'd said, as if restaurants ran on handshakes instead of grit. Now, watching Mason preen in his new Rolex, a gift from investors, I did the one thing he never expected. I laughed. Not hysterical. Not angry. Just quiet. Final. Congratulations on your promotion. I stood, smoothing my flour-dusted apron. I'm sure you'll do exactly as well as you deserve. The kitchen doors swung shut behind me for the last time. 48 hours earlier. The Patterson Properties lease agreement burned in my bag as I drove past McKay's at midnight. Through the windows, I saw Mason practicing his big speech, flipping through my recipe binder like it was a corporate manual. Idiot. Grandma McKay's cornbread recipe wasn't just ingredients, it was her voice whispering, "Sabrina honey, the secret's in the buttermilk swirl." Now Mason would ruin it. Just like he'd ruined the supplier contracts, switching to cheap, frozen greens. The staff schedule, cutting Bethany's hours to hire a mixologist. The soul of the place. My phone buzzed, a text from Carlos. He wants to add turkey bacon to the shrimp and grits. Sabrina. Help. I parked behind the building I'd secretly leased 2 weeks prior. 1923, King Street. Exposed brick. Floor-to-ceiling windows. And a kitchen half the size of McKay's, but mine. Miss McKay. Mr. Patterson adjusted his glasses. You're really doing this? I unfolded the plans I'd drawn at 3 a.m. Open kitchen so guests could watch Bethany's biscuits rise. Farmer's table where Carlos would butcher whole hogs. Wall of mason jars filled with preserves from Mrs. Davidson's garden. I'm not just doing this. I signed the lease with a flourish. I'm going to remind Charleston what real Southern food tastes like. The line stretched around the block. Mrs. Davidson held court at table number 1, telling anyone who'd listen, that boy Mason's serving cardboard compared to Sabrina's cooking. In the kitchen, Carlos seared chicken skins to crackling perfection. Bethany glazed cobblers with bourbon so fine, the scent alone drew tourists. Jennifer worked the room like a maestro, her laugh cutting through the clatter. Then, the door chimed. A food critic from Southern Living walked in. Unannounced. We heard this was where the real McKay recipes landed. My hands didn't shake. Not even when the review called us. A revolution disguised as comfort food, proof that legacy isn't inherited, but earned. 2 months later, McKay's Southern Kitchen filed for bankruptcy. Mason called me 17 times that day. I let them all ring. Instead, I sat on the patio of McKay's table with my team, passing around a jug of sweet tea as the sunset painted Charleston gold. Bethany grinned. Remember when Mason said no one would notice cheaper cornmeal? Carlos nearly spat out his tea. Or when he microwaved the collards? I smiled, but my eyes drifted to the empty chair we'd left at the head of the table. Dad hadn't come. Mom either. Maybe someday they'd understand. Great restaurants aren't built on family names. They're built on hands that knead dough at 4 a.m. Hearts that remember every regular's favorite seat. The courage to walk away and build something better. As the fireflies flickered to life, I raised my glass. To new traditions. They called me the right hand. So I built an empire with my own 2 hands.